I'll call the Lewiston City Council to order for the special meeting, October 24th, 2024, at the time and place as advertised. Councilor Forsman, we think, is going to join us. I don't see her online, but if not, I'd ask the council to excuse her from the meeting. Our next order of business is, and we have Councilor Klein. Councilor Klein, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Online with us. Thank you, Councilor. Next order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd please stand and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everyone to the meeting. We appreciate you sharing part of your day with us. Our next agenda item is item number 3, citizen comments. This is an opportunity for the citizens to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the mayor. In consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit your time to 3 minutes. And how this room works is there's microphones above the head. It's the green circles. But still, the room is kind of hard to hear. The voices don't carry. So if you do come up, please just remember to project your voice, speak loudly and clearly, maybe slowly, not too fast, so that those listening at home, especially Councilor Klein, she needs to hear what you have to say also. It's important we do that. So with that, I would invite anyone to come up to the podium right here, and you can share comments with us. All we need is your name and your city of residence. I don't need your physical address. So with that, I will open it up.
Right here, is this where you want us?
That's great, thank you.
Perfect. Good afternoon, council members. I'm Tammy Myers. I am the chair for beautiful downtown Lewiston, and I reside in Lewiston. First, I want to extend a sincere thank you to each of you for your work you do in our community and the partnership that we've had over the last 20 years. Your support has been crucial to the success of beautiful downtown Lewiston, BDL, and I truly appreciate the dedication you show in strengthening our downtown and through it, our city. I'm here to emphasize the significant economic and social impact that BDL has on Lewiston, and how essential your continued funding is to our ability to operate. Through events like Art Walk, Pumpkin Palooza, Ladies' Day Out, and our summer concert series, BDL brings both residents and visitors into the heart of our city. These events foster a sense of community, they increase foot traffic for local businesses, they generate tax revenue, and contribute directly to Lewiston's economic vitality. BDL's effort to revitalize the downtown are essential for sustaining a vibrant local economy. Our work in assisting the development of a downtown master plan and our ongoing support for the improvements that arise from it reflects the commitment to the vision of our Main Street program. Downtown is not just a commercial district. It's a gathering place where people come to celebrate and connect. BDL is instrumental in creating that sense of pride and community that defines Lewiston, serving as the link between the public and private sectors, supporting and collaborating efforts on projects that impact all of us. The $30,000 annual service contract we receive from the city is vital to making these efforts possible. Without this funding, BDL would not be able to continue offering the events and initiatives that bring life downtown and drive economic growth. These funds directly support the coordination and execution of events that draw people downtown, benefiting the entire community. Without it, we are unable to hire an executive director, and our ability to sustain these efforts would be in jeopardy. Thank you again for your partnership and your commitment to downtown Lewiston. Your support makes a real difference, and we hope to continue working together to keep Lewiston's downtown vibrant and thriving. And then while we're here, I'm going to comment on something else you guys are talking about. We, as BDL, want to express our strong support for the Reimagine Downtown Lewiston Rebuild Project. We believe in using both funds and time wisely, and this project presents a unique opportunity to make necessary infrastructure repairs while also making lasting improvements that will benefit our community for years to come. If the infrastructure needs to be repaired, let's take this chance to not just patch things up, but to truly reimagine what downtown Lewiston can be. By investing now, we can see positive impacts sooner, bringing in more business, visitors, and community engagement, while avoiding the increased costs that come with waiting and piecing projects together over time. A comprehensive approach will save money in the long run, reduce disruptions to the businesses and residents, and create a more vibrant, functional, and beautiful downtown that reflects the best of Lewiston. So thank you for considering this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
Okay. Further citizen comments?
Thank you. Katie Seekins, I reside in Lewiston, and I'm your city-appointed airport commissioner. I have another meeting at 5, so I'm not sure I'll be able to make it to where our agenda is. So I just put a short statement together. I just want to express my strong support for the United MRG. I know it's a significant investment, and my thought process behind it is that I would hope that we could split that minimum MRG between the city and the county as an equal split. So I hope that could be part of the conversation. It should be viewed as an investment to our community. By ensuring this air service, we're safeguarding Lewiston for our economic competitiveness and enhances appeal to new businesses and residents. So it's really about our growth. I think that United has done well. We have the last piece to the puzzle with the larger airplane, and I would like to at least give it one more year to see if we can make it actually equitable for United and for us. So that's just my 2 cents. I thought I'd throw that out there for you guys.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Going once,
I'll be next.
twice.
Sorry, guys. Hi, I'm Ann Watkins. I reside in Clarkston, Washington, but I own a business in Lewiston, Idaho. And I am the current chairperson of the Board of Directors of Valley Vision Economic Development. And the reason why I'm here today is that I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for your support for our service contract in the past year. We'll talk, we have another person here that will talk briefly about our wins over the past year. But I'm going to talk about kind of the purpose of why we're here. So through the investment in our service contract, we have several benefits. We're concerned that the fact that we rely so much on the residential tax base in order to fund our operations, and by recruiting businesses, we create a more diverse tax base and can lessen the burden on residential homeowners. So that's an important key element of what we do. In fact, just one win pays the cost of our entire service contract for a year. While there's several organizations that perform economic development in the Valley, we all have very distinct functions. We're the only organization that uses a very targeted approach to go out and seek businesses in specific industries that fit with our community and business sizes that fit with our community. And through that specific targeting, we hire a service to go out and identify those businesses in areas that are very difficult to do business in and expensive to do business in, because we're a good place to do business and we're a reasonably priced place to do business. And by doing so, we can bring those businesses into our community, which creates a broader tax base, and it brings outside money into our valley. We've made strategic organizational changes. We're a year into a complete strategic overhaul, and I'm hoping, I know that we have a very good relationship with the state with increased communication, and I'm hoping that you can see the benefits of what we do, and we ask that you fully fund our contract at the level that we had last year, $40,000. It's imperative to pay for the cost of recruiting businesses into our community and through our business retention efforts that we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mark.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Brigham, a resident of Clarkston. Been part of Valley Vision for 6 years and also Port of Clarkston Commissioner for 6 years. And I wanted to talk just briefly about, after I thank you all for giving us the money last year to work on economic development. We really appreciate that. And we feel like we've been able to accomplish some short-term wins. So despite the long-term economic development that usually takes with economic development, we've already achieved a significant milestones in the past 12 months. What we've done is we've refocused our mission. We've successfully negotiated the relocation of a business to the Valley. We've conducted 11 site tours to introduce new businesses to the area in the past year. We've held 30 qualified business meetings to explore expansion opportunities. We've compiled 14 business expansion and retention interviews to gain valuable insights with businesses in the area on both the Lewiston and Clarkston side. We've developed an updated new website that effectively communicates our economic development message to resonate better with businesses looking to relocate in the area, and also the businesses that are currently here that want to expand and add more employees. And we've identified 4 additional industry clusters to target growth, complementing our existing 3. So it's been a very busy year with Jerry at the helm. We've got a good, strong board, and we're looking forward to working with you this year and in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, Nancy's jumping ahead.
I'll jump in. I am Nancy McIntosh. I am the Executive Director of the Lewiston Civic Theater. I live in Lewiston. I just wanted to come and say, I didn't speak at the last City Council meeting, but I wanted to thank the council for their support of the Lewiston Civic Theater. Your support has allowed us to provide entertainment to the people in the valley and the surrounding areas. We also are able to help bring children to summer classes that we do. And we had over 115 students in our summer program. And in our acting classes, we were allowed to provide scholarships for some of those students because of your support. And I just wanted to say thank you. And I hope that you will support the Civic Theater at the same level. We are planning our 25-26 season and are discovering that licensing plays to license a title for a show to bring to you folks is about $6,000. So for each title that we bring to you. So it really is helpful to have the City Council support, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilors. My name is Sue Brown. I reside in Lewiston, Idaho, and have for the majority of my life, and enjoyed every minute of it. During the 1980s and prior, the city, the county, and the Port of Lewiston each had an individual on staff to specifically deal with economic development. In the early 1990s, these 3 entities widely decided to pool their resources into one arena, each funding $40,000, and hired one economic development person to be housed in the Port of Lewiston. Subsequently, in the mid-1990s, the Chamber of Commerce sponsored a community forum regarding economic development and the long-term needs of the community. Following that event, the major contributors to this effort decided that an independent organization should be formed, and Valley Vision was created. Over the years, the organization has had hits and misses. When I was asked to join the board, the primary source of leads for companies that might be interested in relocating to our valley, the Idaho Department of Commerce was the specific source. Unfortunately, the good and possibly viable leads were all kept by Boise. Funny thing. Who'd thunk it? Over the last 6 to 7 years, the number of leads from that source were either 2 all the way down to none. During COVID, they were silent. They shared nothing with us. 2.5 years ago, the Valley Vision Board decided to do a nationwide search for a new executive director. During that search, we received 46 applications, of which approximately 20+ applicants were extremely qualified. We were able to narrow that down to 14 and conducted Zoom interviews. The selection committee narrowed that down to 2 top applicants and brought those individuals to the Valley for multi-day in-person interviews. Oh boy, the organization in the entire Valley is now so lucky to have Jerry Chavez as our president and CEO of Valley Vision. Our organization is on a positive roll like I've never seen before since I've been on this board. We have written a strategic plan with metrics to be scored by, and we are meeting those metrics. Numerous trips, which has been mentioned previously, have been made to our target areas to interview prospective businesses that meet our specific profiles. We have had more site visits than ever before. Jerry knows how to perform these interviews and know which prospects are viable. Once we have a letter of intent from a prospective business, of which we already have one, Jerry begins the hardest part of the mission, that is the negotiations. This is where Jerry's experience and knowledge really pays off. We are on the brink of multiple successes. These successes will result in increasing the tax base for all the municipalities and providing good paying jobs, manufacturing jobs specifically, for our citizens. At this juncture, I'm proud and excited to be part of this organization. However, we cannot do this without the financial support of the city. We respectfully request that you renew our contract at the $40,000 mark and increase that investment if at all possible. Thank you for your time.
Further citizen comments? I'll wait 1 more minute.
Mr. Mayor, Council, John Evans, Lewiston, Idaho, Executive Director, Boys and Girls Clubs, Lewis Clark Valley. I want to thank you for the opportunity as well as the partnership and collaboration that we have enjoyed with the city for many years. Specifically, the support that we receive from the city directly impacts the children, youth, and families as it pertains to recreational activities here in Lewiston. A little bit of context, though, although our contract dollars are specific to athletics, specific to recreation, and specific to Lewiston-only residents, I think it's also important for you to understand the context of our organization as well. We are currently a $4.2 million annual operating budget, which encompasses 71 permanent employees, along with 25 additional seasonal employees that help us manage and run those additional athletic programs. So we are a significant entity in the community that has a significant workforce, and that workforce is what primarily makes up the bulk of our expenditures and operational costs. And as you're all aware, those costs have gone up significantly in the last several years. I think it's also important to note that we don't just see ourselves as a recipient of funding from the city. We see ourselves as a partner and a collaborator. And that is exhibited throughout the different partnerships and collaborations that we have with various city departments, including Parks and Recreation. So although we provide specific recreational opportunities for children and youth, we also provide recreational opportunities for adults by partnering with the city and allowing them the use of our facilities, whether that's field, gymnasiums, or other space that they require. So again, want to thank you for your support. And again, thank you for your consideration going forward. And just appreciate all that you've done to support Boys and Girls Clubs. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Mike Tatko. I live in Lewiston. I'm here on 2 fronts. Professionally, I work for Avista. I've been a longtime board member of the Valley Vision Economic Development Organization. I think Since the hiring of Jerry and with Ann's leadership on the board, there's new energy in Valley Vision. I think we have accomplished quite a few things like some of the other people testified. So I would encourage you to support Valley Vision. Personally, I live across the street from the Schweitzer Clubhouse, the newest clubhouse of the Boys and Girls Club, Normal Hill, where the old high school was. They're a great neighbor. It's if you haven't been inside there, I encourage you to ask John or somebody for a tour. It's worth your time. I've been in there a couple times, but I see it externally every day, every morning. It's clean, it's welcoming, the grass is green, the flag football games on Saturday morning are lively and competitive. It's brought a new energy back to Normal Hill since the high school went up to their new location in the Orchard. So I would ask for your support of both those organizations. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Hey, thanks. Wasn't really prepared to speak on this because I'm sure you'll probably get tired of hearing from me later. But I would like to chime in. I think Mike just hit the nail on the head in regards to Valley Vision. I probably was the last person they thought that would be standing or speaking on their behalf a few years ago, but I have to be honest with what Sue has said and several comments. They have totally revamped that organization. We've been involved, whether it be personally or through the airport, on numerous site visits of the folks they're bringing here. And I can just tell you what they're telling you is happening. They're following through. They're getting people here. They're putting our best foot forward. And it's going to take all of us working together to bring these corporations and businesses here, whether it be through their outreach, bringing them to the city, sitting down with planners, talking about hurdles to work through, discussing air service. And I just feel like for the first time in a long time, we're all on the same page and we're all on the same team. And I can't tell you how good that feels from our perspective because it wasn't like that in the past. And I think you're seeing with an example of Northwest Four Slide and some other ones probably that aren't quite ready to be talked about. They're gaining traction and you're going to see some results. So I think Ann's leadership with the others has been crucial. And anyway, so I would urge you to get behind Valley Vision. They're doing a lot of great things that maybe you don't hear about because a lot of it needs to be confidential up until it goes public. But I'm just here to tell you they are out moving and shaking. So please put your support behind them. We need everybody working together to make all this work. So
Thank you, Gary.
thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Anyone else? Citizen comments? If not, we're going to move on to our active agenda, Roman numeral 4. I'll try to speak up. I know sometimes my voice doesn't carry well. Item A is the FY25 Services Agreement with Valley Vision, Inc., considering approval of the fiscal year 2025 Services Agreement between the City of Lewiston and Valley Vision, Inc. This is an action item. Counselor, I'll open it up to you. Mr. Picklemeyer.
Thank you, Mayor. I think has been mentioned out here before, I fully support Valley Vision. And
I'm sorry, but before we discuss Valley Vision, we do want to make sure that any potential conflicts are addressed prior to any discussion. Because if anyone does have a potential conflict, then they're not to be participating in the debate or decision-making related to the Valley Vision contract.
Jennifer, could you introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, my name is Jennifer Tingano, City Attorney for the City of Lewiston.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I believe that is addressed to me, and I would like to respond to that. I am not going to ask to be recused. I am on the board of Valley Vision as a representative of the City of Lewiston. I see it much like when we are a liaison on other commissions and boards. When you read the Idaho statute in regards to both nonprofits and an elected official and conflict of interest, I would need to financially gain from this relationship on a personal level. And I can tell you that I do not, nor do I interject in much of the conversation. During that, I allow business and observe and bring that information back to this body. So unless someone can show that I have a true and actual conflict of interest, I plan to vote on this matter.
Thank you, Counselor. I think that would be up to you to disclose. And if you don't, then, and you do have a conflict, then you would be at risk. So I think that's how that works, but that's your decision with the body.
I have zero conflict of interest. I certainly have interest in our community getting some growth and economic development, so I pay close attention to every one of these contracts and our community partners.
Right, Counselor, thank you. Council, FY25 Services Agreement, Valley Vision, Inc. Counselor Spickelmeyer?
Thank you. As I mentioned, was mentioned, the other people talked, and I fully support them, and I think this is one of the biggest things we have right now to try to gain momentum in helping our economy, helping our tax base. We have nothing else going. So I think our full support of Valley Vision's detriment. We gotta do it. And so I'd support funding them fully from last year's contract.
Counselor Kleberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think what happened at the last meeting, if everybody remembers, was we didn't really reach an impasse, was we didn't have enough information. The combined monies for these 4 contracts had changed significantly from previous year. And I think that's why we wanted to bring this back, waiting for your return as to how that was worked out in the budget. I've got the big budget book, in my truck. I was reading it last night, and I didn't see a line item that would have led me to see the change in the amount of money that we were gonna be talking about. So I think that's where we're having a problem with. If we're gonna fund these contracts the same as we did last year, where are we gonna take the money from?
Counselor Lidke?
I was the motion maker. $30,000 was removed from this particular section of the budget. I believe.
Counselor, I'm going to ask you to speak up a little
Sorry.
bit because we have a big room, a lot of people in the room. I know we have Elaine in the back, she needs to hear you, and we have people at home listening, and Counselor Klein needs to hear this discussion.
I apologize. I've had a quiet day and I need to remember to protect my voice. I apologize. I was the motion maker, and in that motion was a $30,000 reduction from this section of the budget. I will say that my intent at that time was to remove beautiful downtown Lewiston's amount due to the fact that we had not seen a report, that we've had noticeable changes. I also don't believe that we should be funding staffing that, especially an executive director position, when we need to make sure that we have a measurable contract. And so it is very hard to define what an executive director's role is and create those measure markers, whereas the other service agreements do have those. However, I'm fully in support of beautiful downtown Lewiston and hope that they can rebuild and continue on their mission. But in this instance, we were trying to create a sustainable budget, and we had 3 contracts that came with reports, regular check-ins to know how we were doing. And I felt those were viable enough and the math worked out. So I believe that Counselor Forsman was the second and reviewed those as well, but I will let her speak to that.
Thank you.
Counselor Forsman?
Yes, I did review those. I met with the mayor and the finance director to make sure I understood the budget and what that meant. And I was in agreement with it because the other contracts were meeting deadlines and consistently meeting with the city. And I feel that this is a chance to make some improvements for the next year for beautiful downtown Lewiston. And so, yes, I did second that motion.
So let me just add a quick comment, because I know it came up at the last meeting, and I just heard a comment here. Counselor Forsman was asking about what the budget meant. And between the second and the third readings, I met with a handful of the counselors, not all of them, at City Hall, and our finance director was there as well. And we went over the budget, and we talked about ways to get it from the 1.55% down to 0%. And that was the direction that council wanted to go. So when I met individually with the counselors, we talked about ways to do that. And so I had those discussions both with Councilor Lidke and Councilor Forsman, and they had some similar items in their different budget amendments. And ultimately, Councilor Lidke made a motion. It was seconded by Councilor Forsman. That motion was debated and it passed. And so included in that motion, there were some items that Councilor Forsman and Councilor Lidke both identified to remove the budget. And then there were items that they wanted to keep in the budget. So it didn't line up perfectly, but it was kind of close enough, if you will. And that was the budget that we passed on the third reading. So, and included in that was a $30,000 reduction in the line item for these service contracts.
We're specifically talking about Valley Vision.
Yeah, we did kind of a roundabout just to talk about how we got to here, but we are addressing the item A, FY25 Services Agreement to Valley Vision. So, councilors, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion. Councilor Spicklemeyer?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to pay Valley Vision Inc. up to $40,000 for service provided. I guess that's the end of it.
I second.
Been moved by Councilor Spicklemeyer and seconded by Councilor Schroeder to pay Valley Vision Inc. up to $40,000 for services provided, and those are outlined in the service agreement. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councilor Spicklemeyer?
Just as I mentioned before, I think it's very important for the city to have them on board, and I think from talking to Jerry, I think they're really on an upward scale, and I think it's going to really work out for us this year. I think next year we're going to see a lot of gains as they put out. So,
Other council discussion? Councilor Forsman?
Yeah, with Valley Vision as well, I know, forgive me because I don't remember the year, but I know when we first went over their contract, there was things not being met and movements not being made. And so they were also put kind of under the fire of, hey, we need to see some movements if we're going to provide money. And they did, and they stepped up. They found someone that was going to get results, and now they've made that. So I think that they earned to be able to continue to have that funding. And that is why I agree that we should continue to fund Valley Vision. And I'm excited to see the businesses, well, should say manufacturing centered around to Lewiston.
Councilor Klein, do you have a comment?
No.
Okay, thank you. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Councilor Spicklemeyer?
let's see, motion to approve the service agreement between City of Lewiston and Valley Vision Inc.
Second.
Didn't we just do that?
Are you doing the
No, this is
contract?
The first
No.
was the dollar amount. Now this is for the contract.
Oh, I'm
second
sorry. Okay.
Is there a second?
Me. I seconded it.
Okay. It's been moved by Councilor Spicklemeyer, second by Councilor Lidke, to approve the services agreement between the City of Lewiston and Valley Vision, Inc. Clerk Rocky.
Council President Kleber,
Aye.
Councilor Schroeder,
Aye.
Councilor Spicklemeyer,
Aye.
Councilor Forsman.
Aye.
Councilor Lidke,
Aye.
Councilor Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Next up, item B, FY25 Services Agreement, Boys and Girls Club of the Lewis Clark Valley, Inc. Considering approval of the fiscal year 2025 services agreement between the City of Lewiston and the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Lewis Clark Valley, Inc. This is an action item. Councilors, this is a discussion on the amount of money that will or may be paid to the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Lewis Clark Valley under the services agreement.
Mayor.
Councilor Schroeder, or Forsman.
Um,
Apologize.
we might not have it in this budget this year, and it might be too soon to kind of jump that, but I definitely would highly encourage that we look at increasing their budget. They've been the lower end out of all of the contracts, and they provide a lot of service to our families and children. And obviously, our big businesses around the valley find how important it is, and that's why they invest in it. And so I'd hope to see in our next year's contract agreement that we find an increase in that.
Councilors, Councilor Spicklemeyer?
And I didn't write it down. What was the amount, last year's amount for 18,000?
18, yeah.
I guess another question.
Councilor Spicklemeyer?
So at the last meeting, I guess for Councilor Forsman, did you mentioned something about an increased services that they were gonna provide, or there was a question about it?
Increased services.
Childcare or something like that?
Oh, that's not in the plan, that was rumors.
Councilors, you have this before you?
Here.
Councilor Forsman?
I don't have the cheat sheet, so I'm not very good at making that motion. Make a motion to the Boys and Girls Club of the Lewis Clark Valley, Inc., up to $18,000 for services provided.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Forsman, seconded by Councilor Spicklemeyer to pay Boys and Girls Clubs of Lewis Clark Valley, Inc. up to $18,000 for services provided. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Councilor Forsman?
Motion to approve the service agreement between the City of Lewiston and the Boys and Girls Club of the Lewis Clark Valley, Inc.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Forsman, seconded by Councilor Schroeder to approve the services agreement between the City of Lewiston and the Boys and Girls Club of the Lewis Clark Valley, Inc. Councilor Forsman, would you like to speak further to your motion? If not, Clerk Brocky?
Don't think so.
Council President Kleber.
Aye.
Oh, Councilor Schroeder.
Aye.
Spicklemeyer.
Aye.
Councilor Forsman.
Aye.
Councilor Lidke.
Nay.
Councilor Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Clerk Brocky. Next up, item C, FY25 Services Agreement, Lewiston Civic Theater, Inc., considering approval of fiscal year 2025 services agreement between the City of Lewiston and Lewiston Civic Theater, Inc. This is an action item. Councilors, discussion on the amount of money that may be paid to Lewiston Civic Theater, Inc. under the services agreement.
Mayor,
Councilor Schroeder,
what was the last year's?
excuse me.
What was the previous year's?
30?
30?
Councilor Kleberg?
Yeah. I guess I'll make a motion to pay the Lewiston Civic Theater up to $30,000 for services provided.
Second.
And moved by Councilor Kleberg, seconded by Councilor Forsman to pay Lewiston Civic Theater, Inc. up to $30,000 for services provided. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Councilor Kleberg?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the services agreement between the City of Lewiston and the Lewiston Civic Theater, Inc.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Kleberg, Council President Kleberg, seconded by Councilor Schroeder to approve the services agreement between the City of Lewiston and Lewiston Civic Theater. Clerk Brocky?
Council President Kleberg.
Aye.
Counselor Schroeder.
Aye.
Counselor Spiegelmeier.
Aye.
Counselor Forsman.
Aye.
Counselor Lidke.
Nay.
Counselor Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries. Councilors, next up, we have item D, FY25 Services Agreement, Beautiful Downtown Lewiston Revitalization Corporation, considering approval of the fiscal year 2025 Services Agreement between the City of Lewiston and Beautiful Downtown Lewiston Revitalization Corporation. This is an action item. Jennifer, did you have anything to share from your notes?
Jennifer Tingano, City Attorney. As was discussed last meeting, the councilors do have their council contingency fund in which they could potentially fund any additional contracts. However, it should be important to note that the city funds should only be used for purposes specified in this contract, and it shouldn't be used for any other purposes. So when it comes down to statements about funding other things other than the services provided in the contract, city money should not be used for those purposes. It should only be limited to the services that the city is expressly contracting for.
Thank you, Jennifer. Councilor Spiegelmeier?
So I guess the question, then with that, just adding it up, is that, so we've met the budgeted 88,000 to this point. So anything that's approved beyond this would come from, as she mentioned, that council contingency, is that correct?
Councilor Spiegelmeier, that is my understanding as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lidke?
just want to make clear that I respect all of these organizations and I respect beautiful downtown Lewiston. However, I would not support removing any money or dedicating any money from a contingency fund until we see a contract that truly reflects what they will be doing and also their annual report. I could not find an annual report that saw what we did, the return on investment from the $30,000 that they received in years prior, or last year. Also, we, at any point in time, can have a service provider bring to us a new contract and a new request to where those contingency funds should be open to that. If Valley Vision brings success, they should be able to come forward to us and say, we have an opportunity, but we may need to tap into city funds. And if we have already spent the contingency funds on something that could come into question as to how we spent those monies, they're gone and we can't get them back. So I would not be supportive of any kind of spending of contingency funds to award any contract at this time.
Mayor.
Councilor Forsman?
I would just have to echo that. I think that if later on we find that there is a contract more in line with what they're doing and a better documentation presented to us, that's probably not the right word, but then I could see us working together to refund. But at this moment, I don't think we should be pulling out of that contingency fund until we're seeing the results.
Councilor Spiegelmeier?
I guess to follow up on that, and I don't disagree, I'm just wondering, is beautiful BDL been made aware that they haven't met their expectations? Is this the first time?
Well, I'll try to answer that question. It's been a long year. I guess I'll say that. Remember BDL at one time had a lot on their plate. They were doing our business improvement district for us and these kind of things. And the city took that back, and then they went through a leadership change. And so I think they're still in the process of building. I know that they're building. I met this morning with a couple of their board members, and they outlined a little bit about what some of their plans are moving forward. They shared with me that they're going to have a board meeting November 1st, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think probably put their financial plan together a little bit more, and some of that was dependent on today's discussion and what might come out of that. So I believe that we're going to stay in contact. I know I've met with Tammy and Vicky a couple of times, at least over the last month or so. So I think there's some positive signs, some good signs there. But I think it's an honest assessment to say that they're in a rebuilding stage right now. Councilor Speckelmeyer.
I guess with that, I agree, and I'd support Councilor Lidke's comments, Councilor Forsman's. I think it's a good move. It's not a negative move towards BDL, it's just to start a new process, so I would support it.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lidke.
would it be appropriate if I made a motion to table this at this time, but to request that it be brought back in front of this council after multiple discussions with BDL's board to see where and how we can help in their rebuilding year?
Sure, it would. We don't have agenda items on here.
I noticed that.
For a future council meeting, but with council's verbal to me today and our city attorney's confirmation, I will do that. But what we would do is it would just die for lack of a motion, and we would move on. We don't need to table it. It just dies for lack of a motion, and then allow me to work with BDL and see if we can't get something put together and bring it back for your reconsideration. See, it's nodding. Councilor Klein, did you hear that discussion?
Yeah.
Any questions or wisdom for us?
No, I mean, we made a decision to cut it at 30,000, and I feel like that's a good decision and we should stick with it. I feel like people's opinions about BDL are appropriate, and I'm okay with that.
Okay, well, thank you, council. Then I will then move on to Roman numeral 5, discussion items. Please note that identifying an item as an action item does not require the city council to vote on that item. In effect, none of these should be labeled as action, so we could have removed that. Item A is intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the City of Lewiston and Stoughton County Fire Protection District Number 1 and the City of Stoughton. Overview and discussion on the renewal of an intergovernmental cooperation agreement for the provision of ambulance services to the Stoughton County Fire Protection District Number 1 and the City of Stoughton by the Lewiston Fire Department, including staffing, funding sources, and related information to inform decision-making for the next contract term. We have with us here our fire chief, Chief Greg Reitmeyer. Welcome, Chief. With that, I will turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Council, thank you for being here for a special meeting, an addition to a normal busy schedule you all have, and I appreciate your time. Go through a quick presentation for you here. The topic is our service agreement that we have with the City of Stoughton Fire District, the Stoughton County Fire District, and in there is also the City of Stoughton. There's a separate agreement for the Stoughton County as a different entity. What we basically do with them is extend our mission out to that service area, responding to each call with courage, conviction, and compassion. A little history for you. When we look at advanced life support or paramedic services as we've come to know them, that industry first started in 1967, so it's relatively new. When you look at things compared to perhaps machinists or automakers, it's only a 57-year-old industry, and it spawned in the late 1960s out of the funeral home industry, where the funeral homes would go out to a car wreck or to somebody's house and take you to one of two places, the hospital or the place that they worked at. And as that started being developed out, some visionary doctors saw that maybe we could do some of the things we're doing to save lives in the hospital, and we could do that out. By 1972, there were 6 medic units in the nation. They were in Miami, Los Angeles, and Seattle. You might notice there the little reference to emergency. That's what that show was about, is the Los Angeles program. There was actually the director of Adam 12 was at a hospital talking to them about some of the things they were going to be shooting for the police show, and he saw the paramedics and got interested, and that spawned that show. 1972 is the first air flight medical system in Denver, and then By 1977, so in 5 years from that 6 medic units, 5 years later, every state had legislation for paramedics and had paramedics operating. So that, you talk about an industry that exploded and grew fast. I mean, that's like a dot-com bubble explosion for something. Here locally in our valley, 1961, ambulance service began. The Lewiston Fire Department chartered their ambulance service, and they bought 2 old 55 and a 58 vehicle from the funeral home. And they took over the mortuary service and the ambulance transport services, and they provided that to the entire valley at that time. It was just what happened. Fast forward 20 years after the first paramedics were in our nation, the valley got their paramedics. And in 1993, 16 local Lewiston firefighters attended that first paramedic program, and we began ALS services valley-wide. Those services were all provided from the city of Lewiston at that time to the Orchards and to the city of Clarkston and over to Asotin County. The next change that we really saw was in 1995. They were getting pretty busy, and so they added a day ambulance, and a year later, under budget constraints, they said, well, we can't do that. Fast forward another 6 years, and there was some staffing changes that happened with Station 3 being closed. The Orchards is now incorporated, and there was a third medic unit added to the system. It responded out of Station 1. There was no space for it at Station 4. And the reach into the Asotin County and Clarkston downtown area was best from Station 1. In 2012, as the system had continued to grow and to mature, there were some discussions with the Asotin County Fire District. They had some space. They said, well, what if we hosted you over here? It would improve the response times and the service to our area. And the city at that point in time entered into an agreement with the city of, or with Asotin County Fire District. And the city of Asotin said, well, we'd like on for this, and we'll add in a little bit of money to that contract. And at that point in time, it was $390,000 was the annual contract, plus the city of Lewiston kept anything we made from doing the transports. When you look at the kind of the placing, this is just a little bit of rudimentary Google Earth, but one of the things that moving that medic unit did, it benefited the folks obviously over in Asotin County and at the time Clarkston, but it benefited that area for us alongside the Snake River and into the Elks. It got us a minute closer to there, and you know, you think a minute's not that big of a deal until you're trying to hold your breath for an extra minute, and so it obviously it has an impact and helps folks out. Just recently, our fine GIS folks did a impact study for me, and they looked at the areas there, and sorry, trying to see that. The map on the wall behind you is bigger. But what it shows you is that those green spots and how the overlapping of the stations. Station 4 is the only station out of those stations listed there that does not have a paramedic unit. It just has a basic life support engine all the time, and on occasion we have paramedics there on that engine company. You still see that the area down there, Elks and along the river, is just because of our geography of our city, tough to get that into a green or yellow and get it out of the purples and blues. But that gives you kind of an overall planning and look at how we would do that. So our current status, we are the only trauma verified ALS provider that's licensed with the state of Washington for Asotin County. And we have contracts for service with the county itself for the unincorporated area, the fire district and the city of Asotin through their contract. We also contract with Nez Perce County and Whitman County to provide ALS transport and motor vehicle extrication rescue services for those. The unique thing about the Asotin County Fire District City of Asotin contract is they're not paying on a pay-as-you-go and paying by the call. They give us a flat sum of money that sets up us existing and being there. It's really a readiness thing. And one of the most difficult things about emergency services, police and fire, is the cost of being ready when the emergency happens. And it's a difficult thing to quantify. Looking a little bit back at our 5-year picture of our call volume and some data there, what you see in the purple is those are the Idaho calls that Medic 7-3 runs from the location up there at the Asotin County Fire District. And then the orange is the Washington calls that they run. And so what you see there is it runs right about a 76, 77% of the time that Medic 73 runs calls in Washington. The rest of the calls that they run are actually in Idaho. And so they take the load off, and we see on a weekly basis about 3 to 4 times a week that we have what we call no medic units available. And that's where all 3 units are tied up on emergency transports. We push non-emergency transports off. We'll call the dispatcher, will call back to the hospital or nursing home and tell them that we'll get to them when we can. And then what we'll do is administrative staff will peel off and we'll go get a medic unit and start taking calls, or the engine companies will shed a different call and try to get to the emergency calls. We're walking a razor's edge, but we try to do, I think we're doing a pretty good job of hitting the target. The goals are the 90th percentile is what we try to get, is that we're getting everything done 90% of the time underneath the time standards. Looking at the trend line there, it was just kind of that percentage of calls showing you the percentage of time that we're in Washington. And when you look at that 21 dip, there should be a little asterisk there, COVID. People stopped calling 911 for a little while there in COVID because they just didn't know. And nobody really wanted to go to the hospital where sick people were. But we've climbed back out of that, and we're starting to see our statistics normalize. Looking at the financials of this contract agreement that we're discussing today. So we received now, originally it was $390,000 in 2017. It was increased to $400,000. And that's split there, you see 370 and 30 between Asotin Fire District and the City of Asotin. The revenue that we received last year from transporting people after you do adjustments for mandatory write-offs for Medicare and Medicaid, it was 149 and change. Our GMT revenue last year, we're seeing a change in the GMT structure and auditing, whereas we were bringing in sometimes $300,000 and $400,000 a year from GMT in Washington. The procedures they have gone through now have tightened that up, and as you've heard Director Gordon discussed during our budget process, we may actually in the audit process end up owing them money back to the Healthcare Authority in Washington. We're still crossing our fingers that we've shown them all of the things we needed to show them, and we're standing good. So total revenue last year was $630,000. There's a little asterisk there that we don't have our final numbers hardened yet. That'll be coming in November when everything gets closed out and posted. The total projected FY expenses right now that we're looking at, again, not closed up, is at $800,000. Of note is that when we move that unit over there, the city or the Asotin Fire District provides our living quarters, the space for the medic unit, all of our storage for our equipment, our medications and everything, hot water, weight room, bedrooms, the whole bit for no cost. So that's kind of also their skin in the game along with that $400,000. When you look at that for last year, we're right 78 and 78.75% of what the cost were covered by Washington revenue, the cost for that $800,000 unit. And 78.59% of the Medic 73 calls were in Washington. So we're right there within, tenths of a percent to it being a total wash, while we also aren't incorporating the facilities costs that we would have to pay. And also not in that is the city of Asotin, the county of Asotin, which the year before was right around $25,000 in revenue that we got from them. So I'm happy to report, I think that we're not losing money there. It's not making money, and I think ideally government's not in it to make money, but we're also being good stewards of the city of Lewiston's tax dollars when we're going and providing services outside our city. In this case, the district and the city of Asotin are good partners with the city of Lewiston in getting us in that readiness by putting those financial amounts into the pie. With that said, the next steps we need to do another contract, and so that was the information that the mayor asked me to kind of bring so that we knew what we're doing and where we're going and how we want to see the terms of that next contract go. So I stand for questions.
Thank you, Chief. Very well done. Councilors, we do have these contracts coming up, and sometimes what happens is, in this case, the contract expired at the end of September, then I get a call call from the chief that said, hey, we need to get a new contract going. And rather than just bringing you a contract, an old contract and updating the dates, I asked the chief to take a look at this. And our finance director, the chief and I are going to take a close look at this, and our city attorney, because it's not just this contract, we have several of these. And so just kind of put them under the microscope a little bit, make sure that we're being responsible with our tax dollars on this side of the river, because we do have, as you learned today, a very long term relationship with the valley in these types of services. So I know that I'm gonna do some more work. Chief's gonna get me some information, and we're gonna check and double check our numbers. GEMT is a moving target right now, and it's a challenge for us. Medicaid, reimbursements, these kind of things, but I just wanna tell you that we're gonna do our best to make sure that we're crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and trying to count for every dollar that we can. I won't say penny, because there's a little bit of, movement in this, but we're gonna do the best we can. So that's why it's here, because he will be bringing you a contract soon for your approval, and this kind of gives you some of the background information. And I think it lays the foundation for some of the other contracts that we may talk about with Nez Perce County and others, that will come up. So, Councilor Lidke.
Chief, can you tell me, how long have we had the contract? How many years has the contract been at $400,000?
In 2017, it was updated from 390 to 400, and then back to, that was from 2012 to 2017.
So.
Did I help or did I make that more confusing? Sorry.
What I'm doing math in my head.
Yes.
And I'm going to just say something that you may or may not agree with, but in my mind, mutual agreements need to not be necessarily equitable when we are putting our people on the line. I think that government should be finding resources that create pockets of money that then we can go after things that the fire department has asked. So I'm a little unclear as to what this all entails, except for the men that we send there, and I believe it's 6. Is that correct?
There's 6 people assigned to that unit, 2 people per shift and 3 shifts.
So I guess my is that that's not a lot of growth, but I have seen that we've done COLAs and increases, and we have step increases. So are we covering those costs? And while that looks great right now at 78.75 and 78.59%, to the mayor's point that the GMT revenue is a moving target, and we're unclear as to whether or not we will receive those payments because of other instances that are happening that maybe we didn't bill correctly or those things, and I know that we're working towards that. But I would like to see that any mutual aid agreement at least covers the cost and then some, because most of those mutual aid agreements immediately go into our overtime, into our callback situation, and we are funding things like equipment that we're taking into terrain that is not within city limits. And so as a taxpayer and trying to represent our tax base, to know that we're making sure that our city is safe first, and ensuring that we're taking care of our men and women that work for the fire department in every possible way. I think it's more than apt to expect for mutual aid agreements to ensure that we cover those costs and some contingency funds to ensure that when we have an issue, we can attack it without going into taxpayer dollars from the city of Lewiston. So just a statement, as you bring a contract forward, I hope to see an increase that reflects at least the cost of living and the rate increases that we've given to the firefighters in at least the last 5 years. But if I remember, this number is historically over a 10-year. The 390 goes into a 10, even 14, 15-year, where we really haven't seen a huge amount of growth in that contract amount. So that would be my hope and expectation as we move forward with all our mutual aid agreements.
Appreciate that. I think one thing I would clarify, if we can, is that mutual aid agreements do not have a financial component to them. They are based on helping back and forth. This is actually a service contract to provide service. And I just, so that we're got the apples and oranges on opposite side of the tables. And I appreciate what you're saying. I think that if we looked at the housing or the housing costs, the cost of electricity and everything else, the district has been in, they've covered that the whole time, and they've eaten all that increase, and we've kind of eaten the labor side of those increases. And it's also important to note that if we were to stop providing this service, we still need 16 firefighters. And so we're getting as 16 firefighters with somebody else paying nearly 80% of their salaries and the vehicle costs. We would still, like I mentioned to you, we're at no medic units available every week with 3 medic units. We would not be able to drop to 2 medic units. Just our call volume, we need that in the city. So yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, and it's not supposed to be a flat trade, but it's also, we're dealing with government entities. It's not like we're contracting with Clearwater Paper as a private corporation and trying to make some money there. And, as I discussed with the mayor, there's political election cycles and levy cycles and so forth. So I think what you'll see from us in working with the city attorney is a 1 or 2 year agreement where we will set some plans in place. In talking with Chief Harden, there's a point, there'll be a tipping point where growth is going to force different things to happen. And what we want to do is we want to maybe have a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan with some management action points in place. So we all know what's happening, and it's not a surprise to anybody, and we can look at some key performance indicators and see, okay, we're getting closer. Okay, now we need to start planning. So I appreciate you giving me some leader's intent there from you, and we'll keep working on it.
Councilor Spickmeyer? Thank you, Mayor. Chief, just curiosity, looking at your call volume, it's listed as Idaho calls and Washington calls. So in 24, basically Lewiston had 375, and Asotin County had 1,200.
That's correct. So Lewiston that's 375 calls that Medic 7-3 went on from there coming into Lewiston.
Okay.
Yes. No, we had probably about 6,000 calls in that, yes.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Councilors, we will see the chief back soon, and we're gonna go through this thing, and we're gonna do the best we can with it. We need to do that. That's our responsibility. But these contracts are important too. But we have an obligation first to our taxpayers in Lewiston, and we'll do that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, councilors, next up we have item B, proposed Main Street bond. Discussion on proposed Main Street bond, which will be presented to voters in the upcoming May or November election. We have our Public Works Director. Director, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Are we into the evening now? Dustin Johnson, Public Works Director. I'm here to just kind of walk you through real quick as the mayor kind of teed up. We've got the re-envision Main Street, the downtown City of Lewiston project that has consumed a lot of Public Works time. It's been a long journey, and we're closing out. So what I've got in front of you here right now is kind of where we're at in the calendar. We finished up the steering committee meeting number 3 this week. You will kind of start seeing us quite a bit as we ramp up the completion of the concept design. So we will be in front of you, or at least the consultant will be in front of you November 4th for a general update on the status of the design, feedback they've received from the public specific to of the reconstruction efforts or reconstruction design efforts. And then you can see we'll be working into the finalized concept and estimated costs here roughly in a month. So this thing is tapering out, closing out quickly. Just for everybody's memory, this is the outline of what we're talking about. And again, we're talking about everything underground to above ground, sidewalk vaults, sidewalks, water, sewer, stormwater, streets, and everything in between. And so the boundaries of one particular entity as far as the utility goes one direction, and the rest may go in the other directions. But generally, that black line is the outline of the area that we're talking about for this project. So I'm not going to go really into much detail as far as to the concepts. Those have been rolled out into some public meetings. There will be a follow-up, another public meeting, and then there will obviously be more meetings in front of this board. I want to talk about generally how we got to here today, and we're talking about a bond in the spring. And so I think there was some public comment already in this meeting that's talking about how the business and property owners of downtown cannot afford to have this project strung out, nor can the taxpayers of Lewiston have this project be strung out. And so what we're essentially talking about are the utilities and then everything that goes on above that. The utilities, as you know, are paid through enterprise funds. We also have ARPA funds that are available for the water closeout that need to be spent within the next year or two. The infrastructure that we are experiencing downtown right now, I would say water is the most critical one that we're talking about. If you want to look out the window right now, we had a water main break again at First and D. We've had sinkholes. I am collecting pictures now to show you every week something happens. It's a sidewalk vault, it's a water line, it's a sinkhole. I can't remember all of the other ones that have recently been happening, but you can fix it and be done with it, or you can bleed it out over time, and that's what we're experiencing. And so what I'm trying to let the public and you know that this is an infrastructure project. This is not a street reconstruction project. This is an infrastructure project. And so the only way that we can do this in one big project is a bond. That is a general obligation bond. This would need to be approved by the council, that it would go on a ballot, and then the voters of Lewiston would vote on it. The city has recent history of doing this with the SRF project. If you remember, what was that, 5 years ago now, the city went forward, and that was a little bit different. That was a revenue bond because that was based off of revenues based off of water and sewer revenues. So there was a lower threshold that needed to be met, but it's the same concept. The voters needed to approve the city to take on debt for a larger project that we could streamline and do it all at one time. And you may say, I live up in the Orchards. Why would I care about what's going on in downtown? The map in front of you, the properties outlined in yellow drain essentially to the corner right here of this building. That is all coming down. You can see the red arrows are a little hard to see there. The red arrows hit that trunk line on Snake River and go right behind the hotel and around this building over to the wastewater treatment plant on the other side of the river. So that is at full capacity and flowing strong right now and in need of repair. So that on D Street, or First Street and D Street, right there is one of the pinch points of our wastewater system. All the other system that you see that is not highlighted, it flows through Brackenberry Square. And that's the other pinch point. That one has an overflow that we're working on right now, a bypass we're calling it, but it is also in its full capacity. We believe the condition of that pipe isn't to such a degree, once we get the flows bypassed, we probably won't need to replace it. So I'm not particularly calling it out, but if you flush a toilet in Lewiston, you go through downtown. This is just a quick showing you, when we dig up these utilities, so sewer is the deepest. It's anywhere from 10 to 20 feet deep, depending on where you're at Main Street. And so when you do construction 20 feet deep, you set a trench box to a certain height, and then you kick that kick the trench back so you can work in it safely. Then you've got stormwater, you've got water, and then on top of that, you have lateral service lines that come off on each side. So based off what we have today, we would come in and we would do water. Water, as you can see, is in the blue. We would come in and we would only patch back what you see. That is what we've done in the past because the money is not there. A GEO bond would help generate funds that would do this as a complete project. So you were talking about not just a patch back, but a reconstruction of the Main Street. So once you have it ripped up to a degree that you see here, this is a plan view. Looking down, you can see this is just out here, Main and D. So that's Morgan's Alley right here. That is, as our best estimate at this point, to true locations. And so the hatched areas show you've got water, you've got sewer, and then you've got the lateral service lines that come off each of that. So if we were to go through there tomorrow without any general obligation money to do any true reconstruction, that's what your patched back Main Street would look like. I believe that is basically my update to you. I'm more of letting you know this is an issue that will be front and center in the spring of 2025. So I'm here for any questions, discussion. I just don't want anybody feeling like this is going to sneak up on them.
Councilor Lidkey?
Just a comment. I appreciate the pictures, but I would suggest that the city both share those with the public. And this is probably an opportunity for Chair Myers and the city of Lewiston to visit how BDL can help us educate the public by the use of our downtown business owners to share their experiences, because I am hearing the stories of the things that are happening, the dampness, the buildings shifting, the things that are happening that really could be detrimental to our city. So I would highly suggest that we just get it on the ballot, you need it to pass. So I would say that there is no such thing as too much education in this process.
I concur, and I've met with them Monday or Tuesday this week, and they're wearing me out in a good way, so.
Councilor Spicklemeyer?
Thank you, Mayor. So Director, you looking at that picture you laid out with the sewer at the bottom, is that what, last meeting, we saw a picture, you had to have an amendment to a contract where they were cutting concrete? That's what's going through?
Yes, that is that main, so that was the section that was downtown, or down by the courthouse there. By that bypass means that we would not have to replace that section of sewer, because we were bypassing the significant amount of flow, basically from where we're bypassing it at Bargain Hunter Mall through that parking lot to Brackenbury, where it now goes through. So that whole section means we don't have to do that.
But is that the same system that's here?
That is the same system that's, essentially here. This is only picking up local flow, so it's a much smaller pipe, but it's still very deep. And then everything that's coming from that hatched area I show comes behind the hotel on First and then around here.
Councilor Forsman?
So if you're to rate our city, and as far as like what's critical, maybe like needs done but not right away and then can wait, where would you say Main Street is compared to the rest of like the orchards as far as infrastructure goes?
That's a great question, because that's what, we have our capital improvement plans, and we are obviously way better than we were, say, 5 years ago, where we had a 1920s vintage water plant. So we're head and shoulders above. I'm going to say, I may be partial because I've been working on this project for the last 4 months, but, I am fully aware, we did a pavement condition index, and I am fully aware of the condition of the streets, particularly the arterials, Bryden, if you go to 10th and Warner, those streets are in rough shape. That's also Lloyd water, so I'm not particularly worried about the underground infrastructure. People are worried about it, it's just not my job to worry about it. It's Main Street is where all of this comes together. It's not just the commerce, the traffic, but it's also the water, it's the sewer. This is the area. This water line that's leaking right now on the corner that we fixed this week, that's 1909. So it's just worn out. And so some of this stuff, as we get up in the orchards, it's vintage 60s, 70s, it's newer. This is the oldest and most critical piece of infrastructure that we operate within the city.
Councilor Forsman?
More of a comment. I think it's really important for the citizens and everyone that's going to be thinking about voting on this is that if we continue to kick the can down the road, it's just going to cost us more money in the long run anyway. Whereas if you buckle down, you spend the money, you get it fixed, and then you stop having major disasters or major failures happen where now you're playing a really reactive approach. But if we get this done, we're going to be a proactive city. And I think it's really important that we get on top of this and start really working towards it. And that's going to look good for businesses coming down. They're going to see the beauty of it, the roads being nice, and that, this city really cares about their infrastructure and keeping up with appearances. And I just think it's important that we really keep that in mind when this comes to voting, is that we can't just keep kicking it down the road, because in the long run, it's going to cost more money.
So I want to piggyback on that. Councilor Forsman talks about spending the money, what others see us doing. Certainly it's an investment, but councilors, what we're talking about is the budget process. So it doesn't begin next June. It's happening today. Every meeting we have, we enter the budget process for next year. So if you think about it that way, if we go down this road, we're talking about taking money that we have saved in our budget so that we can fund future growth, future projects. So we're not borrowing the money per se, we're saving that capacity within our budget, our tax budget to do that. So that's a very positive thing. It's a very conservative thing to do. It's like buying a car on loan or saving up for it, and we're doing that. So think about this, like the budget process, because it will come back to you next summer when we talk about the budget, because you could say, you know what, I don't want to spend this money on a bond to fix our main streets, I want to do something today. Well, we can certainly do that, but then you don't have that capacity. So we've been saving for this. Director Johnson and his staff have been disciplined, and they've been planning for this. This is a project that came around years ago. Maybe Councilors Schroeder and Council President Kleberg maybe were at the beginning of this, but we're at a time where we can make this happen, and we're making these future decisions today. So I think it's a very positive thing, but when they see us spending that money, we're not spending money that we don't have. We've saved and prepared for this, and we're entering that budget process today when we talk about these things and ask people to think about that. So, other comments, questions? If not, we'll turn you loose, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, next up, we move to item C, United Airlines Air Service Minimum Revenue Guarantee. Discussion on the request from the Lewiston Nez County Airport Authority Board for special meeting regarding United Airlines Incorporated request for a minimum revenue guarantee for the 2025 fiscal year. And Director Isaacs, are you going to visit with us on this? Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record. And as always, please remember to speak up loudly and clearly so those listening at home and our Councilor Klein listening at home as well can hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. Appreciate the opportunity. Last airport board meeting we had, I'm Mike Isaacs, airport director. Last airport board meeting we had, the airport board requested, we have one last special meeting with the sponsors on United to determine, because it's so important and so lasting of a decision, they felt it was really imperative that we bring it up to you at least one more time. So I just want to go through a few slides as a recap. We know that the minimum revenue guarantee that United requested was $4.9 million. Contract period is October 1 of this year until September 30th of next year. The big change that they offered is upgrading to a Embraer E175. It's a 70 or 76 seat jet, depending on which model they have. Next slide, I'll talk about what that means. It's still a morning departure, and it's still a night arrival. So it's leaving at 5:30 in the morning, coming back at 10 o'clock at night. It works really well for folks to get to the East Coast by mid-afternoon. The $4.9 million is predominantly because of the upgrade in the aircraft and the competition that they're facing with Delta's dominance in the market. So the E175 that I brought up, it's the Embraer 175. It's the new modern replacement to the CRJ 200 that we've been operating. The CRJ is a 1990s model. We talk about infrastructure, we talk about old, do we keep patching it up? And there's a lot of mechanical delays that we've had with the CRJ 200. The E175 is got 50% more seats, obviously. It has first class service. You'll see on the left side there's 12 seats in first class. Why is that important? Because 90% of the profit that comes from airlines comes from those 10% of the travelers. That's the more profit they make, the less subsidy they need. It's obviously a more comfortable cabin. They have better seats. It's quieter. They have charging stations, full overhead bins, all the modern amenities that you would expect to have. It's also more performance oriented. It has no heat restrictions. So if we did a midday turn, it doesn't matter. They can have the heat restrictions without kicking anybody off. It doesn't have any baggage restrictions. There's less delays with better on time. This is all boosts their profitability. We knew for quite a while that the CRJ 200s are going away. We need to that's a chopping block we don't want to be on. The airports that are on with the CRJ 200s, They either need to step up or step out of the way, because that's where the market's going. They don't make 50-seat jets anymore. They're making 76. They're trying to do more with the same crews. We know we've been talking for years about shortages of pilots. They fly more people with the same crews. So what's at stake? Well, obviously, there's less connections. If United leaves, there's no incentive for Delta. I got to reiterate how important it was. Your investment in United these last 3 years didn't just bring United. It brought Seattle. It brought Delta service to Seattle, something that we lost in 2018. That's because of the competition. Delta upgraded their CRJ 200 to the E175 a year and a half, 2 years ago, because of the competition. So there's a lot at stake here. What it boils down to in numbers is 818 combined unique destinations every day right now is what we have. If we lose United, if United pulls out, there's no incentive for Delta to have both Seattle and Salt Lake. They'll likely just bring it back down to one that we had when they started. We go from 818 down to either 205 destinations in Salt Lake or possibly 140 if Seattle was the only hub. And it's important to remember that Delta, when we brought this up before, Denver International is the third busiest. They overtook Chicago for the third busiest now. They're the third busiest in the United States. They only have 7 runways built. They only have 7 runways built. They have room for 5 more. That tells you in the next 20 years, just by looking at the numbers, capacity, they're gonna be number one because they have the capacity. Seattle's built out. They're having problems right now. They're looking to go double stacked. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but Denver has the space to grow and they're growing. Another thing we'll face is higher ticket prices. This is really why we were shocked in a good and bad way when we came to you saying, look, they used up all the MRG. Why was it? Because the prices plummeted. We lost 45% in airfares because of the competition. That saved just in airfare alone, that 45% swing was $6 million, let's say, the travelers. 59% are local and 41% are people that come to our city. So 59% of that $6 million directly benefit the people that flew out that live in our area. So the magic question is, what would it take to be subsidy free? How do we do this? Obviously, we've seen the goalpost move with competition, with Seattle injecting another 76-seat jet in there. It took time to, the competition is got all these extra seats to fill. Thankfully, they're filling them. In fact, I just talked to SkyWest general manager day before yesterday. United's only been operating this E175 for 1 month, and they're already 75% full in first class on the bigger plane. So it's being used. It's not like we're asking for something to throw money at it and it's not being used. This is being used. It's actually growing. We need more travelers to come back from Spokane and Pullman. We need to keep the leakage, they call it, the people that decide to go. With our prices so much cheaper right now, we have people driving 3 hours to Lewiston to fly out of our airport. That tells you, I mean, that says a lot right there. So what would it take? It's gonna take, we know that about 100,000 passengers, when you get about 100,000 people that fly out of your airport, you're in the black. Airlines are making a profit. The airport's not asking for a subsidy from the sponsors. Business travel is booming then. We have, right now, we're still seeing folks phase through their frequent flyer miles. As they build up flyer miles, the frequent mileage program that airlines have, they have 500,000 miles of travel to spend, and we have a new service come in. Well, they're gonna burn out, they're gonna use up all those miles first. So there's a delay getting some of those corporate travelers to come. Obviously, we need one more flight. If you just do the numbers, one more flight on a 76-seat aircraft brings us to 102,000 seats per year. So that brings in 100,000 opportunities both ways. Right now for the year, we're gonna end up right around 55,000, maybe a touch more. People departing, so 110,000 total. I wanted to point out that in the last 4 years, from 22, 23, and 25, we requested, the airport did not receive a subsidy for the operating budget. So we were able to use ARPA and COVID relief funds to help. We use them not only for balancing our budget, but for using for infrastructure projects. Almost $3 million that the sponsors normally would be paying to help cover, to keep our operating costs. Just like Chief Reitmeyer brought up, there's what's it take to keep the services open. You have to have a fire station at the airport. You have to have all these services. You have to meet all the FAA's requirements, whether you have 1 flight a day or you got 10 flights a day. Here's some of the capital improvements we've done too. We haven't just been sitting back. In the last 5 years, we've put $27 million of infrastructure in capital improvements. Runways, taxiways, aprons, hangar area, airfield lighting, equipment. We're gonna be taking delivery of our loader, first loader on the ground at our airfield with a snowblower. Huge improvements for us. We've been playing catch up with this since I've been here. Our 5-year capital plan is pushed out. We got projects for 10 years and there's no end in sight. I wanna bring one into your attention is the terminal construction project. We just completed a terminal study. They determined it's gonna take, that it obviously needs to be rebuilt or remodeled or reconstructed. It's anywhere between $33 million to $69 million if you wanna knock it down and build a new one. So this is something that is gonna take about a $7 to $13 million match if we were to upgrade that facility. Again, this is all the infrastructure in our community, in the Lewiston and the Nez Perce County. So I brought this up before, but the numbers have changed now. What's the return on investment? Wyoming, is it worth it? Wyoming, the state of Wyoming thinks so. They calculated in 2020 that they returned $12.36 for every dollar they put into the minimum revenue guarantee plan that they have for their state. So using that logic, 4.9 million generates $60 million of direct economic, not spin-off, it's direct economic revenue output that comes into the region because of this investment. So those are, I guess, no matter what, you can say it's getting its bang for a buck, whether we could argue if it's $12.36 or $6, it's still making well more than we're putting in. For certain, less connections, higher fares, less frequencies is gonna hurt businesses. We just talked about how Valley Vision's on the cusp of having these new opportunities come in. If you don't have ways to get these folks in and out, they're not coming. If we're gonna beautify downtown, all our cruise ship industry, they had 17,000 people fly in and out of the Lewiston Airport on American Cruise Lines alone this year. Having that port that they're investing in, it's how it all ties together. You have to have the bridge across the world to get these folks here so they can use our downtown, so they can go back and forth to our ports. That's how it all works together. So this is, air service is the catalyst that drives the economic growth. I would say that and this is an old cliche, the most important mile of the highway in a city is the runway, just because it brings you to the rest of the world. It's critical infrastructure, I would call it. This is a list of this is a 22 list of cities that have lost air service from the last 3 legacy carriers. There's 59 names on that list. They all lost service. Dubuque went completely dark. That's a much bigger city than us. They went dark. They lost all their air service. So, as I mentioned, we have to be aggressive to continue with promoting and using our air service. The community has to be behind it. I don't think it's in the best interest of the community to have our name on this list. All this air service happened well before me, and I want to introduce Chairman Gary Peters, if I could, to help give some backstory and give a little bigger context of what's at stake. So, Gary, would you come join me?
All right, thanks, Mayor, Council. Thanks, Director Isaacs, for the presentation. I know these are numbers and slides that we've presented before. Many of them probably look familiar. I just can't stress to you guys enough how important this is for our community. And I know some of you weren't on the council or weren't involved in 2018, but I wasn't a part of the airport at that time. But I remember that day vividly when we didn't get a phone call, we didn't get emails returned. You, as the sponsors, were told we're in great shape. Everything's fantastic at the airport. Our numbers are great. Our weather's great. We would never lose an airline that's been here since 1983. And then all of a sudden, one Friday afternoon, we find out that we're losing our carrier. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was devastating to many, many folks. And when we got tasked to put this new board together, and again, I'll remind you, my first meeting was a mediation at a facility in the Orchards to sit down with the city and the county to discuss choosing a mediator or a legal avenue for the city and the county to be able to sit down and decide how they could discuss even keeping the airport open, let alone moving forward. That's where we got to as we were reeling from losing air service. We literally almost lost it all. And through a lot of hard work and Cassie, you said it the best, of kicking the can down the road. This is how we got there in 2018. We ignored the facts. We did not invest any money in marketing whatsoever for decades. And that's how we lost out, because the community did not know. They did not realize that we went from Metros to 36-seat early 200s to dash 400s to 76-seat. The marketing didn't follow. All of a sudden, the planes flew for months and months, and the load factors were awful. And by the time somebody paid attention, it was too late. And in the meantime, we told some movers and shakers in the valleys no, with that one wanted to move their entire facility that some of you may be employed by that are on the council now that wanted their whole entire facility here. And we told them no. And what they do? They drove 30 miles north and they wrote a couple $1 million check. And the next thing you know, that gets parlayed into a $250 million competitor that we get to deal with now forever. And we've proven we can deal with them. We're winning right now. We've passed them in employments, first time since 2018. We're well on our way to the 80,000 we had prior to losing our original carrier. And I'm telling you guys, it hasn't been easy. The first few years, it was all hands on deck. It was not a typical board position. It was everybody doing everything they could, spending time with the FAA, getting to meet the airlines, establishing new relationships, hiring a director after a 9-month exhaustive search that had actually dealt with losing air service before, so had the tools in his toolbox. And I don't want to go through that again. I can't go through that again, to be honest with you. And I don't think we want to do that as a community. And I know it's a lot of money, but when you look at all these other communities that was on that list, they have freeways connecting them. They have ways to get people in, or they have hubs within 30 to 50 miles of where they are. We don't have that benefit. Our airport is extremely important to this city growing and sustaining and keeping. And I know even the businesses that Valley Vision has brought in locally. I mean, I know businesses I deal with, my own business, it will be a problem overnight. I mean, a lot of people rely on that service. I was in Dallas last week for a week. I was texting Mark Alexander till 3 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. I didn't know we had coverage at the last meeting and when we were able to make some comments to the sponsors. And I was back and forth with Mark till 3 in the morning, like, what do we do? Like, well, we have to ride this out is my answer. I don't know if the MRG, is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 2 years? Is it going to be 5 years? I don't know. But I do know the E175 was a critical step to making this profitable for United. The CRJ 200 is an awful aircraft. Ask anyone. I know even 3 years ago when we started the Denver service, we immediately knew we want to get off that list of the 200. We want to beat the delays. It's uncomfortable. It's just, and Mike touched on it, and I'll try and translate that into, I cannot emphasize that enough, that first class. I know a lot of us, including myself, most of the time, I won't spend the money to fly first class unless I have the miles. But when you travel all the time and you're a corporate traveler and you're a Diamond, a Medallion, and you're all these other, it's a big deal. And those airlines make 90% of their profits off 10% of their passengers. That's first class and business class, comfort class. We've never had that before until now. Now we have it on all 3 flights, including this United. So I just feel like we're right on the cusp of making this thing work, making this stick, being the region's airport for business travelers. And if we say no now, we're not gonna get another chance. We will be a one-horse town labeled after that. And, you know, I obviously can't predict the future, what kind of pandemics or things are gonna cause things or airlines to shuffle, who knows? We will always continue to work hard on your behalf and do the best with what we have to work with. But, you know, we're giving, and I know I'm speaking to you, but I know the county's in the back, and I know there's probably a future commissioner up here, and I know there's an election coming up, so I know this may look a lot different in a few weeks, but I'm kind of talking to both of you as the sponsors. And, you know, this board works, we're all volunteer. We don't take a dime. We gave up our stipend a few years ago. You know, we're here because we care about the community and we care about the airport, that period. This board is strong. Like, let me tell you, we've worked hard at this. I mean, Mike is on top of his game. He's one of the best directors in the country. If you ask me, I know a lot of them. And AAA, I mean, you don't come in and save air service like this normally. And it's because of the team Mike has built and the relationships we have with SkyWest and with our consultant and the message to Delta and to United, American Cruise Lines. I mean, we're putting it all together. And I know it's a lot of money, but I think if you look at the return, speaking to you from a taxpayer for a second and not an airport chairman, our business is one of the largest taxpayers in Nez Perce County because of the personal property tax generated off of construction equipment. And if you ask me as a taxpayer, this is where I want my tax money going because I know what it's going to get turned into. It's a great investment. I know it's a ton of money, but it's a great investment. And I know you're gonna hear from both sides, and I know social media, but I can guarantee you I had meetings with Clearwater Paper last week, and it came up in those meetings because of the article generated. And they're like, man, thank you, Gary. Keep fighting. Keep relaying the message. We need this. This is important for us. This is important for our executives to get back, our employees. Those aren't the people chirping on Facebook, I can assure you. It's not Clearwater Paper, it's not Vista, it's not Schweitzer, it's not PK, it's not the education, it's not the schools, it's not small businesses like mine. We don't chirp on Facebook and just go that route. But I can guarantee you, if we could get people here on a Thursday afternoon, which is extremely hard to do, I guarantee you what the common consensus will be among the business leaders. They support this investment from the city and the county. So I know you're working on your budget. Man, dig deep. Like, let's figure it out. Like, we know what the alternative is, and I'm telling you, it's not good. So anyway, I would stand for any questions also, as well as with Mike, or if there's any other commissioners who have anything to say, if you're open to that. But
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors, questions for, I'm going to start with Director Isaacs. If you have any questions for him or Chairman Peters or others, comments or questions. I know this is, Mike had asked us to schedule something, and since we had the special meeting, I thought we would include it here so we can keep moving on it, keep talking about it, not delay. I can tell you for myself, I'll follow up with Director Isaacs. I have some questions, some new questions that I'd like to ask him, and lessons learned from the last MRG, and see if there's not some additional information we could get ahead of time, which will help, I think, remove some of the unknowns, you know. So I have some that I've been thinking about while we're sitting here. I do want to say for the record, and I think both of you know this, but the city of Lewiston, after we signed the agreement for the MRG, we did make a commitment. We reinforced our commitment to LWS, and all flights start and end here in Lewiston. So for city employees, we don't allow them to go to other airports for their business travel.
appreciate that. If I could, Mayor, one comment, you made me think, you brought up our Interstate Air Service Committee that you put together during COVID that I was able to sit on with you. I think there's a number of different avenues to be able to fund this. And I think it honestly should come from the state. The Wyoming example is the best example. I know there's a lodging tax that's been mentioned that could possibly be used. There's mechanism. We just don't have time, obviously, right now to implement anything immediately to keep the service here and allow them to leave. We're kind of buying ourselves time to research those. And honestly, this all happened because of politics. It's how we lost our original airline. Well, that's what's going to fix it too. That's what's going to fund it. That's what's enabled our competitors to do what they've done, is pure political support. Obviously, they're in a much different situation because they're owned by 2 states and they have a lot of horsepower behind them, but it starts with our local elected officials and their networking at the state level and the federal level. I mean, Dan and I found that out on the Interstate Committee. I mean, that ball was rolled. We were moving. We were headed in the right direction. I mean, we had a lot of great ideas. We had their attention. I mean, we were talking about moving all the property tax money that was generated by airlines sitting on the ground in Boise at night, and it was a big number. It's just a matter of getting that money out to these communities and for the governor and for them to understand how important it is for us not to lose that service. So I think that needs to be the big goal, is to, because obviously we're not going to write these checks forever. We know that, but we got to get somebody to backfill that. The money's there. We just have to figure it out how to make this work. But if we say no and it goes to the competitor, they're going to figure it out. I'm telling you. So anyway, I just know that's the end goal. I mean, we know this can't go on forever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Schroeder?
Well, it actually looks to me like you're only talking to the city. So have you talked to the county, and are they willing to sit down, and are they willing to do half?
So that's our intent. I mean, you can see, well, they were here. Most of them were here.
I'm sure they left.
No, I mean, I don't agree with that.
Right now, you're only talking to us.
Well, this is your meeting that we requested.
Yes.
We have requested a meeting with the county as well. As soon as they could get us on the agenda, whether it's this week or next week, we're absolutely wanting the county to participate 100%.
We put in the 4 million over 1 year. They put it in over 3 years. And now we're sitting here saying we have to do the 4 million plus again.
Not saying that,
that's-
asking you
you're only
what could you
talking to
do?
us.
We'll be having the same conversation with the county, I can assure you.
Well, if they come up with something, we'll probably be interested in listening to it.
That'd be super.
Thank you, councilors. We have another board member here.
Yeah, so.
Joe Gish, please introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, my name is Joe Gish, live up in Redbird Road. I came here as a commissioner on the airport board, but I'm also a candidate for county commissioner when you probably see my signs around town. And if I'm elected on November 5th, I would support moving money, county money to the airport. It's that important. And, you know, Mike talked about it, the airport director talked about it. We get almost $30 million direct economic impact from this United flight. And if we lose it, we're gonna probably lose one of the other flights to either Seattle or Salt Lake City. And recently I've been working with Valley Vision, and I've been a kind of critic of Valley Vision, but they're really getting their feet underneath them, and we're talking to companies. They're doing great marketing, and we need, that's why we need this air service, is we need that air service to attract companies to this area. And I'm also on the URA board, and I know there are a lot of people on this board that are fans of the URA. Well, the model of the URA is divert money so that we can create infrastructure and produce new development and generate property taxes so that we can get that return on the money. Now, 2 out of the last 3 years, city and the county have not had to pay a dime for the airport because our airport director found grants to cover that shortfall. We're around 50,000 enplanements right now, and we're about 55% self-sufficient. If we get to that 100,000 number, Wouldn't it be nice if the sponsors didn't have to pay that? And that would be every year, they don't have to pay it because we have that 1,000-person employments, or that 100,000 employments every year. So it's like the model that we like on the URA. And that's year after year after year, you get that money back. And that's the model of the URA. Once you build that infrastructure, get the new construction, property tax comes in year after year after year, and you make that money back, that investment back. That's what this is, an investment. And if I'm a county commissioner, I am definitely going to support this because it's a good investment. We get good return for our money back. It's the airport is the catalyst that's going to create businesses. It's going to create the economic growth that we need in this area. And the last thing is I lost my train of thought. If we do this time, if we do this stopgap, which I'm willing to do as a county commissioner if I win, we can't just stop there. We've got to work and move the ball down the field with everything that Gary was talking about. And that means talking to our legislators, talking to the governor, getting the legislators that are in Washington, D.C. to support us, because we can't blow a hole in our budgets every year. And we don't know how long this is going to go on. It won't go on forever. The MRG won't go on forever because eventually the pilot shortage will be over. I think fuel prices will be down. And then we'll get into a competitive market again. But if we do this, which I'm willing to do as a county commissioner, we've got to keep moving forward to find a different source of money. And I think we can go to the state, we can go to the national government, we can find grants, and we can solve this problem, but we can't put it on the back burner until the next crisis. We've got to do this and then work hard. And as a county commissioner, I'm gonna dedicate myself to doing that, knowing the airlines and knowing a little bit about the airline industry. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. I'm going to see if the council has any more questions. If not, we're just going to take it under consideration. I will follow up with Director Isaacs. And then, so thank you. And then I'd like to ask if our city attorney, if she has anything to add to the discussion that we need to be aware of. So we all hear it here.
Thank you, Mayor. Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney. As has been previously mentioned, an MRG acts as a guarantee from the airline to ensure baseline levels of air service to the airport. In exchange, the local government, in this case the city, promises that a certain number of seats will be sold for this service. Should the actual sales fall short, the local government compensates the difference with its own funds. In short, an MRG functions as a subsidy to ensure the continued availability of air service for citizens that is only paid when services is underutilized. The general authority to enter into the MRG exists within Idaho statutes and case law. The Idaho State Legislature has declared that operations of airports is a public necessity exercised for public purpose, which is codified in Idaho Code 21-110. While the term operation is undefined in Idaho Code, the Idaho Attorney General's Office previously stated that the operation of an airport also includes the ability of a city to contract for the provision of air service to and from the airport on behalf of its citizens, including contracts for MRGs. However, while cities have the general authority to enter into these contracts directly with airlines, careful consideration must be given as to the structure, drafting, and the detail of any given agreement so as not to run afoul of state constitutional provisions and federal regulations. The city has confirmed its authority to offer an MRG to United using non-airport funds, that is, funds not designated for airport purposes. However, this is contingent upon the city's understanding that it must still fulfill FAA grant assurance obligations as an airport sponsor, which includes avoiding unjust economic discrimination. Generally speaking, this means that an airport sponsor must treat all airport users making the same or similar use of the airport in a uniform manner. While an airport sponsor may treat similarly situated users differently, those differences cannot be unjust. The FAA's December 2023 policy on air carrier incentive programs states that while incentives that vary on a per-passenger basis, such as an MRG, are not inherently unjustly discriminatory, airport sponsors, such as the city, must ensure that the incentives offered would not be considered a subsidy and that they would not result in unjust discrimination against non-participating carriers. The FAA recognizes that new carriers operating at an airport or a carrier starting a new route operates at a disadvantage with established carriers until the new service becomes known and accepted. The FAA defines new service to include a significant increase in capacity on pre-existing service to a specific airport destination. Further, the determination of whether a new service causes a significant increase in capacity is at the discretion of each airport sponsor, recognizing that not all airports are similarly situated and what is considered significant for one airport may not be for another. Importantly, it's my understanding that the FAA's position is that if the city provides an MRG to United, then the city would be required to provide a substantially comparable MRG to Delta upon request in order to comply with Grant Assurance 22. The provision of such an MRG is limited to 1 year. Additionally, the FAA's policy on air carrier incentive programs provides that incentives based on specific aircraft types are unjustly discriminatory because they could unreasonably exclude certain carriers that do not operate the type of aircraft being identified. Therefore, any incentive program must carefully be tailored to avoid limitation to a particular aircraft type and are limited to no more than 1 year. Moreover, upgauging incentives should only apply to the increased capacity if there is a significant net increase in seat capacity to the specific airport destination, not a mere change in aircraft type. Further, the FAA's Aircraft Carrier Incentive Program policy provides that incentives that vary on per passenger or seat mile basis are not inherently unjustly discriminatory, but the airport sponsor must ensure that the incentives offered are not a subsidy and would not result in unjust discrimination against non-participating carriers. That's what I have to.
Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing that with us. I know it's all important for the discussion that we're having here, so I appreciate that, and I'll follow up with you as well. Councilors, any final comments on that? If not, we will continue on with our agenda. Councilor Forsman.
Just a quick comment. I understand how important it is to have the airport, and I am not blind of that. And for the growth of Lewiston, it's paramount that we can become even a better airport and that people can, even our citizens can more and more use our airport and not have to go to Spokane, have more affordable flights. And I understand that that's a long process to get there. It's not going to happen overnight. However, I do think that I shouldn't say I do think, I don't think, I know I will not make a decision to give money until we have, as you say, maybe a vision towards how we're gonna not have to rely on city funds anymore. Whether that be we go to other cities and ask them to participate as a whole, maybe everybody puts in the pocket to help the airport. I don't know if we're allowed to talk to the county and have them participate. I'm not sure what that looks like. But having it presented that this is our action plan, this is what we plan to do to make this successful, I'm not gonna vote on it. Because we have to show that we mean business for the citizens, so they're not just forking up cash all the time out of their tax dollars and not seeing the result. The fact of the matter is the tickets are getting cheaper, but there is still a lot of people that can't afford to fly out of Lewiston. So they're not seeing the benefit out of it. So we need to make that a focus in order for this to happen. And I also think that we shouldn't make this decision until we sat down with the county, talk to them about what their opinions are. Will they share it with us? Because right now we're just speculating. And so we need to, I don't know how we can get that on a thing, but sit down with the county and have a meeting and come up with a plan. If we truly are partners, we need to be coming up with a plan of how we're gonna make this happen and treat it seriously for the citizens and for the airport.
Thank you, Councilor. Comments? Councilor Klein, are you still with us? Do you have anything to share? Otherwise, we'll move forward.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor. Thanks for being with us. Okay. Council, next we'll move on to Roman numeral 6, unfinished and new business. Item A, City Councilor comments. Comments shall not be related to an item currently before the council or an item that may come before the council in the foreseeable future and shall be limited to comments, not discussion.
Mayor?
Councilor Forsman?
It'll be quick. I just want to appreciate everybody coming. I know it's a late meeting and it was a quick scheduled meeting that we put on, and so I appreciate you being here. Without public involvement and our leaders' involvement and those that are making an impact on the city, we wouldn't be able to make the movements that we make in the progress. So I really appreciate you guys taking your time out of your days to be here. I know you're all busy and look forward to future development for Lewiston.
Thank you, Counselor. Other council comments? Okay, mayor comments. I've got a couple of them here. First of all, this is a little bit late, but I was gone when this happened, but our Heidi Cornell, third grade teacher at Orchardge Elementary, that was Idaho's 2025 Teacher of the Year. So that was pretty special. Great recognition for the Lewiston School District and especially for Miss Cornell. So I congratulate her on that. And just a thank you to all of our teachers that are working very hard for us in the school systems. They have a tough job. In fact, I got to tell you, I did have the honor of being a guest speaker today for a second grade class, and they had a lot of questions for the mayor. And one of them was, what's your favorite thing? And so I had to tell them that. And about 5 minutes later, a lot of other questions in between, and this young person said, what's your second favorite thing? And I thought, okay, and then we answered more questions and went on. Another 10 minutes goes by, yes, what's your third favorite thing? And I thought, my gosh, what are you people doing here, counting all this stuff?
What are they?
Yeah, oh, no, we don't have time. But my first one was service to the community. I talked about my role here, but yeah, so no, it was really an honor. So just thank you to our school teachers. And then I also want to congratulate Nikolai Green and the Nez Perce Tribe for the Atway Exchange Project. They had the ribbon cutting on that today. There was a couple of us there today, Director Johnson and Director Groh. But that's been a major milestone. That's been in the works for decades. And so just congratulations to them. It will open up soon. Ribbon cutting was today, but it was a much needed improvement for highway safety out there at the interchange. So with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Lickey, second by Councilor Forsman to adjourn. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Councilor Klein? Aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.